Okay, I feel like a monster, but I also need to stand my ground here. I don't want to be a mega idiot. I, 20, female, have a stepsister, Jane, 18, whom I've known for 7 years. We've had our ups and downs, but ultimately she's family, and I would never want to intentionally hurt her. One thing she does a lot during arguments with her mom is say, "Well, Dad would let me do X, or maybe I'll go stay with Dad then." I've never met her dad. I've seen him a few times, but I was never properly introduced to him. He and Lucy, my stepmom, had a bad breakup, and she didn't want him to meet my mom or me, which I can understand, given what she's told me about him. For the past week, Jane has been even more irritable than usual. I tried talking to her, but she shut me out. Lucy and Mom told me she'd come around and not to pry. I found out a few days ago that she'd been using my expensive skincare and had almost emptied a bottle in a week. That takes me 5 months to finish, as well as using and almost emptying all my other skincare stuff. I was angry and confronted her, telling her to replace it. She started crying and getting angry with me. She said I was an annoying idiot for chasing her up on face wash and that I needed to leave her alone. I will admit that we both said some harmful things, which I regret, and I ended up saying, "Why don't you go live with your dad since he'll let you off?" Jane's face dropped, and she said, "My dad died last week, you idiot." She ran and locked herself in her room after she said that, and I immediately regretted what I said. Lucy and Mom came home shortly after, and I explained what had happened. They both said I needed to apologize, which I agreed with. Lucy went to talk to Jane, and afterward told me that Jane would only forgive me if I was grounded until the new year, and she had free reign of my wardrobe. She loves my style but can't afford to buy clothes to fit at the moment. I said no to both. I didn't bring up her dad as a gotcha, he's dead moment, as I didn't know he had passed. Obviously, if I had known, I wouldn't have said anything about it and would have treated her outburst or change in behavior differently because I now know she was grieving. Lucy and Mom said that if I won't do those things, I should at least drive her around to her friends, university, etc. I said again, no. We both go to different universities, and the logistics won't work. Lucy said if I can't make it up to Jane, I shouldn't expect her to forgive me. I said I don't need Jane's sisterhood if it's only based on transactional things like car rides or clothes. Jane is fuming with me, and Lucy and Mom think I'm being petty and difficult for not even attempting to patch things up with Jane. I don't expect her to forgive me straight away, as that's not how humans work, but no apology would suffice, as she doesn't want an apology. She wants my things. So as it stands, it's 3 against 1, and everyone at home thinks I'm a huge idiot. Am I the idiot for refusing to make it up to my stepsister after bringing up her dead father, who I didn't know was dead? Not the idiot. It's time to stop apologizing and go on the offensive. Why the heck did nobody mention this to you beforehand? You had clearly said that she was shutting you out to Lucy, but you were told she'd come around when she was acting out because her dad just died? Your response, which was to apologize, was frankly a bit doormatty. If I were you, I'd have gotten angry at Lucy for not telling you what happened, or at the very least, not informing you that Jane was going through a difficult time. You shouldn't apologize for not knowing information that was intentionally withheld from you. I consider that to be an enormous lie of omission, that it's practically malicious. You were basically set up to be the bad guy so that Jane could then use you as her emotional punching bag. This does not change the fact that she stole from you, used things that weren't hers without permission. She needs to replace those. You can't use her apologies as skincare. You should go on the offensive here. You came from ignorance with the dad's remark. She willingly took your stuff. Honestly, OP, they were just using you as a scapegoat to make Jane feel better. And although I sympathize with the loss of a parent, you were not properly informed of his passing. Honestly, you don't deserve this level of toxicity from them. Yeah. What kind of dysfunctional family are you living in that no one told you that someone you live with lost a parent? and they think it's okay for her to demand access to your clothes or ride in the car and steal your stuff in order for her to forgive you? Get out of that house as soon as possible. And when it's your turn to create a family, whatever that looks like, remember these days and make different choices. For context, our neighbor's son, Nick, is the same age as our daughter, Ava, and a great friend of hers. They're both young children. My wife, 35, and I, 36 female, have him over for the day very often, and our daughter goes to see him during the day as well. Overall, they're both great kids and excellent friends. We have an aquarium in the house with 8 fish in it. Nick and Ava have named all the fish and enjoy feeding them and spending time with them while they play in our house. Nick was in our house. His parents were out and sent him over when, unfortunately, one of the fish passed away. His name was Mr. Bubbles. Ava and Nick were very sad and cried over him. After they calmed down, my wife and I prepared a memorial with a grave in the backyard and a formal ceremony. Nick and Ava drew pictures of Mr. Bubbles, and they wrote a sentence from each of the other fish, Mr. Bubbles' friends, to read at the ceremony. We buried the pictures and notes with them. At the very end, Nick asked if he was asleep. I already had this conversation with Ava when my wife's father passed away, so she would sometimes join me in my answers, but overall, the conversation was something like this. I said he wasn't asleep, and that sleep is not the same as death. He asked how they were different. I said sleep is another way of existing for the living, while death is simply the absence of life and everything that keeps someone alive. We talked a little bit more about this. He asked if Mr. Bubbles would come back, and I said he wouldn't, but he would always exist in Nick's mind, and that's very meaningful. He asked if he was in heaven, and I said I don't know. The next day, my wife got a call from Nick's mom saying we shouldn't have talked to him about this and that we were not his parents and we were overstepping boundaries, especially because they wanted Nick to believe in the concept of heaven and purgatory. Now, I had the conversation only because he was desperate for some answers and he was comfortable, but I still wonder if I overstepped a boundary. His parents were out and sent him over. When you delegate a child's care to someone else, you also delegate things like discipline, teaching, and life lessons. If his parents don't want things said to their kid, they cannot use you as childcare. I say, not the idiot. You answered in a way that was age appropriate. Also, you didn't say that heaven didn't exist. Instead, you gave a neutral answer. The fish dies in front of the kid. There was no pretending, and you handled it as diplomatically as possible to allow for his family beliefs by saying, you don't know where he went. You didn't say, there is no heaven and God, kid. Bah ha 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 ha. And no Santa. Ha 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 ha. And if he had said, yes, Mr. Bubbles is in heaven, there would have been some rant about animals not having souls. The only thing I'd do differently is maybe to add a bit. I don't know, ask your parents. They probably do. However, this is a fantastic learning experience for Nick, one handled with compassion and honesty. His parents should be thankful. I'm going to sound like a monster, but here goes. My wife and I blended our families 5 years ago. When we moved in together, she had 2 daughters, Mel, then teen, and Molly, tween. I have 3 kids, Lola, tween, Brendan, tween, and Brian, younger tween, and we were expecting our first baby, now a preschooler, and later had our second baby, now a young toddler. The house is fairly small, but we have 4 bedrooms. The master bedroom, a downstairs bedroom, second master, and 2 smaller bedrooms. Due to space, we decided to put Lola in one bedroom, Brian and Brendan in one bedroom, and have Mel and Molly share the downstairs bedroom. The plan was that the baby would share with us for the first 2 years and then move the baby into Lola's room and have Lola and Molly share. Mel would have moved out for college by then and just share with them for breaks. Everything got thrown into chaos when Mel passed away a year into living together. When it would have been time to think about moving rooms, my wife couldn't even think about touching her stuff, and asking was unthinkable. We had an accident. but wanted second baby. So we decided that Lola and the baby would just have to share for now. Our second is now a toddler and is starting to need to be not sharing a room with my wife and me. I'm starting to think it's time. I would never have asked a year or even 2 years out, but now we're heading into year 4. I understand that it's a hard thought and seems callous, but the reality is that we don't have the space to keep this up anymore. We need the space. The bedroom split is just not fair and hasn't been for years. Lola's almost a teenager and shouldn't be sharing with one toddler, let alone 2. There shouldn't be 3 kids sharing one of the smaller bedrooms, and now 5 kids sharing one bathroom? All this while one child gets a large bedroom and a bathroom for herself. It's not reasonable. My wife and Molly are still resistant and say it's expected to not want to move things around even years later. And they don't want Mel's things being taken from them, especially Molly. I get that, but we can't. It's just not realistic. Even if Mel was still with us, she wouldn't live with us anymore. The plan was always to move Lola into that room once Mel went to college. Molly was never supposed to have her own room, and per the agreement 4 years ago, Molly's getting all of Mel's stuff, so nothing's being taken from her. They're furious, and now the whole house is fighting. Lola is sick of her situation. Molly and my wife want nothing to change, and of course, I'm the evil bad guy who does everything wrong. Is this really that outrageous? Info. Why on earth would you have another baby when your family situation is so emotionally overloaded? That part always gives me the ick. 5 kids between them are ready to share 3 bedrooms, but these blended families always need to cement the new marriage with our babies. OP at least had a plan that made sense before Mel died. So many stories are, so we have a 2-bedroom house and 9 kids between us. What do we do? Why didn't you figure this out before you married someone and moved in together? Why are you springing on your kids that they have to share a room with a stranger? And even more, why do the parents always keep the master bedroom? They'll cram 6 kids into a shed in the yard before giving up the big bedroom. Insane. On stories like these, I can never stay on topic because I'm so distracted by the fact that no one can keep their stuff in their pants. For the love of God, stop having children. What is up with all these people? Don't you think 2 would be enough? This isn't specifically aimed at OP, but almost all of the need help or need advice or what should I do? My life is going down the drain posts are from people who have 5 or 6 or more children. Maybe that's the problem. Geez, what causes these people with multiple kids and space issues to have even more kids? 7 kids and 3 bedrooms? Molly and Lola share. Brendan and Brian share. The littles get bunks. Since y'all want to run a kids camp, maybe the parents get sterilized. OP, you are the idiot. My nearly adult female mother was my world. I remember reading books, watching documentaries, and going on road trips with her. She baked my sister and me cookies whenever we were sick. She and Dad would take us hiking every other week. I still miss her even now. When I was 11 years old, she passed away from a driving accident. It was the hardest year of my life, and it hasn't gotten easier. 2 years after she passed, my father started dating a woman named Nicole, and 4 years later they're getting married. Nicole is younger than my father. After dating Nicole, I saw my father come back into his shell, but it turned into something else. Nicole brought adventure back into his life, but they often went on elaborate trips and frequent nights out. During all of this, I felt neglected. My father slowly stopped taking my sister and me on our weekly hikes. He started speaking less over calls, and he even once forgot my mother's birthday. After she came into our lives, I started losing my father. He just wasn't there anymore. One time when my sister and I were home alone, she fell down the stairs and got a huge cut on her forehead. It was clear she needed stitches, so I called my father immediately. Nicole answered the phone, and I told her to give the phone to my father. She refused, saying he was busy, and before I could get another word in, she disconnected the call. I embarrassingly had to ask the neighbor to bring us to urgent care, where my dad later met us. This woman at one point removed my mother's picture from the fire mantle and put up an image of her and my dad from their trip to Washington. What tipped me over was when she made my father forget about my mother's birthday. Every year, my sister and I go with our father to visit my mother on her birthday. It was an annual tradition even before Nicole entered our lives. Nicole and my father went on a trip to Florida and were supposed to be back 3 days before my mother's birthday. But because this woman gets motion sick, my father decided to break the drive back into small intervals to make it easier on her. Because of this, he ended up missing our annual trip. He didn't even call us. Not even a week later, my father has the nerve to tell us about an exciting surprise. Nicole is pregnant. I get angry and tell my father, "Do you really need to get her pregnant when you can't even be here for us?" I then look at Nicole and tell her she is a disgusting piece of trash and to get out of our lives. My father gets angry and yells at me to go to my room. Later, my grandpa unexpectedly came over to pick me up. My father didn't text me crap. Even as I left, he wouldn't even look at me. It's been 2 days, and I'm still at my grandparents' home. I feel ashamed for saying what I said, yet I don't feel overwhelming regret. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Nicole showed her colors when your sister was injured, and she wouldn't let you talk to your dad. And he has showed his colors too, in many different ways. I hope your grandparents can continue to be there for you. You were harsh and rude, but I can't fault you, given what you've shared. OP, I'm so sorry the two of you were neglected. Ask your grandparents to get your mother's heirlooms out of the house, and I really hope you can lean on your grandparents and stay with them. Tell them of this neglect. Also, check that your mother's legacy, inheritance, is not stolen from you. Your father is not a good parent or a person. He has abandoned you when you've lost your mother and would deserve special love and care. I hope you can go to counseling for emotional support. Work on your school. Cling to your sister and grandparents and any aunts and uncles if you have any. Lean on friends. Good luck, OP. Your feelings are very justified. You are not the idiot here. My 30 male brother, 22, is spending a semester in Asia, and I offered to pay for his flight so we can attend our mother's 57 wedding. I got the cheapest flight available. It's not like I have money to spare, which includes a 9-hour layover during the night. As soon as he got the email confirmation with the tickets, he asked if there wasn't a more direct flight, which bothered me already. He then asked me if I could lend him some money so we could spend the night at a capsule hotel at the airport. He says otherwise, he'll be exhausted at our mother's wedding, which takes place the same day he arrives. I told him he could sleep on the airport bench for all I care, and I'm doing too much already. Even if he eventually paid me back, I doubt it. I couldn't believe how ungrateful he was. Am I the idiot here? You are the idiot. That's a poisoned gift. Why did you book him a flight arriving on the day of the wedding without the possibility to sleep? It's kind of you to pay for him, but you wasted your money by getting a ticket that doesn't allow him to enjoy the wedding, nor for your mom to enjoy his presents. Have you heard the term, never look a gift horse in the mouth? OP's doing what's available in the budget. If the brother's unhappy, he can fork out some money, or put up and shut up. When it comes to travel, cheap often equals inconvenience. OP's not the idiot. I disagree. Sounds like OP felt obligated or persuaded by the family to do this for his student brother. He did the bare minimum, and he's washed his hands of it. When you realize it would include sleeping over at an airport, some don't allow this. Why didn't you speak to him and see what he thought? Maybe he or a friend or relative could stump up the additional money for a better flight and capsule hotel. You seem to be almost enjoying his discomfort.